back again, this time to talk about The Great Pirate Project. And if you're not familiar with that, it's an all-year event thought up by Mark Richardson, and I'll link the video where he talks about it down in my description for you. But it's all year long. There's no timeline. There's no real rules. The intention was to read nonfiction books about pirates, any kind of pirates, Golden Age pirates, Caribbean pirates, Barbary pirates, modern pirates, any kind of pirates. However, since there are no real rules, I am taking liberties, and I am coupling all of my nonfiction books with fiction novels. So I'm also including some of my nautical nonfiction that aren't necessarily about pirates, just because I already have them on hand and I think they fit well with the whole pirate theme. So I just thought I would share my Great Pirate Project TBR with you guys, and I have already gotten started. So the first one I read was Pirate Hunters by Robert Curzon. This is all about these two men who, a true account, this is the nonfiction, who are looking for the remnants of a sunken pirate ship called the Golden Fleece, which was captained by Joseph Bannister, who was an absolutely incredibly amazing pirate, and he pulled off some amazing feats. He was a brilliant tactician, that's for sure. So the people have been looking for the Golden Fleece for years and years. The ship itself is kind of famous because of the way it sunk, and everybody figured it should have been very easy to find, because it sunk in very, very shallow waters, but nobody's ever been able to find it. And as it turns out, everybody was looking in the wrong place. And these two guys figured out that everybody had been looking in the wrong place and figured out where the ship actually was. So yeah, so this was just an elusive ship to find. So that's the important thing about that one. And I'm pairing that with The Princess Bride by William Goldman, which of course I watched the movie back when I was in high school. And I'm sure this is a lot of people's favorite movie. It's a fabulous movie. It is one of my all-time favorites. And I picked up the book several months ago because I'd really like to read the book and compare it to the movie. And since Wesley was an elusive pirate that nobody knew his real identity and nobody could capture him, I thought that paired well with the elusive pirate ship that nobody could find. Let's see, what's next on my list here? Oh, Decatur's Wake by Daniel Wattenberg. I've also already read this one. This was really, really interesting, although I wished it had been a little more comprehensive. It was a shorter book, and it was all about Stephen Decatur. He was working with the American government. He was a naval officer in the United States. We didn't really have a navy to speak of back then. We were a new country, and we were kind of struggling along. And at some point, they finally decided they needed to have some naval ships, and they sent this guy, Stephen Decatur, to take care of our issue with the Barbary pirates, who were essentially blackmailing us. They were fierce pirates, just feared the world over. And in order to keep them from attacking our ships, our government had to pay their governments just incredible amounts of money. So Stephen Decatur waltzes over there with a little fleet and takes care of those Barbary pirates in a one swoop. And it was quite an impressive story. I really, really enjoyed all the information that was in that. I had absolutely no idea that this ever went on. So this was all brand new information to me. So since that one was all about politics, essentially, my fiction novel to couple with Decatur's Wake is Voyage by Sterling Hayden, which, as far as I can tell, has quite a lot of political maneuvering happening in it. So I thought that would be a really good pairing. Then next on my list is The Buccaneers of America by John, how do you pronounce this? Esquemeling? I'm sure I'm butchering that name. This in here, in the original English translation of 1684, so I thought that would be an interesting read. And was the book responsible for attaching the romance to pirates and piracy. And because of the whole romantic aspect, I am pairing that one with Captain Blood by Raphael Sabatini, because is there a more romantic pirate than Errol Flynn playing Captain Blood in that old movie, which I absolutely loved? No, the answer is no. So I thought these would be a good pair. Okay, I'll also be reading The Republic of the Pirates by Colin Woodard, which is all about the Caribbean pirates. And I am pairing this one with On Stranger Tides by Tim Powers, which is what the movie Pirates of the Caribbean was based upon. So Caribbean pirates again. So I thought these would be a good pairing. So next on the list is The Black Joke by A.E. Rooks, which is the true story of one ship's battle against the slave trade. So my understanding of this book is it's all about a British naval ship fighting against the last slave ship. And so my impression is that this is some kind of a battle at sea, which is why I paired it with The North Water by Ian McGuire, which is not two ships going to battle at sea, but about two men serving on the same ship who end up having some kind of conflict where they are physically fighting, or I'm not sure exactly what the deal is, but it's a conflict between the two men that does turn physical somehow out at sea. So I thought these two would be a good pairing. Okay, another one I'll be reading on Kindle is In the Heart of the Sea by Nathaniel Philbrick, which is all about the sinking of the Essex and the attempted survival of the men who were then stranded at sea. And if you don't know what the Essex is, that is a ship that was sunk by a whale. The real ship that was sunk by a whale. So I'm sure you can guess what fiction novel I have paired with that. Moby Dick by Herman Melville, obviously. Very much the obvious choice. I did actually start this book 8 or 9, 10 months ago, something like that. I got around 10 pages in. I took several notes, as you can see here. Was absolutely loving what I'd read at that point, but I got distracted away from it and had not gone back to it. So this will be the perfect excuse to start this book over and actually finish it this time. And another book I'll be reading on Kindle is A General History of Pirates by Daniel Defoe. So based on what I read about this book, it pretty much shaped the way that we view pirates, you know, with the planks and the patches and the peg legs and all of these things that we sort of associate with piracy of the old ages. And Treasure Island by Robert Louis Stevenson would have been the natural choice for this, but I just reread Treasure Island like not even a year ago. And so I'm going to use The Black Arrow by Robert Louis Stevenson as a stand-in for Treasure Island. So I still think that goes along just fine with A General History of Pirates. Another one that I'll be reading on Kindle is called The Pirates by Matthew West. And that one focuses on the profits that were involved with piracy. And so because that was all about the profits, I decided I would finish the Frostheart trilogy by Jamie Little, which is a middle grade fantasy type series about this little boy who has some magical powers, and he joins a crew. They're not pirates, but they're merchants, and the seas are seas of ice, and they sail on ships over the ice from village to village, country to country, etc., to trade and make money. So I read the first one probably a year and a half ago or so, and then I never did read the other two. So I'm going to reread the first one and finish up by reading the second and third when I read The Pirates by Matthew West. Okay, another book that I have on Kindle is If a Pirate I Must Be by Richard Sanders. Since the title of this is If a Pirate I Must Be by Richard Sanders, the implication to me is that he was sort of forced into piracy, or that he chose piracy because of something that had happened to him. So I said I was going to be pairing my nonfiction books with fiction novels. However, in this case, I'm actually pairing it with another nonfiction. It's not a pirate nonfiction. It is a nautical nonfiction called Wanderer by Sterling Hayden. And the reason I wanted to pair these together is because I really want to read this, and I'm kind of out of fiction pirate and nautical books at this point. And Sterling Hayden was sort of forced out to sea. My understanding is that something happened in his real life, and also I think he was trying to evade taxes as well. I'm not really sure on that point. I can't recall. So I thought that would sound really interesting. Also, he's just kind of an interesting man. He apparently worked on boats his whole life. So I do have one more nautical book called Sailing Around the World by Joshua Slocum. And I did start reading this book. I didn't get very many pages in. I got to page 15 and had 13 notes in 15 pages because there were so many references in this book that I was not familiar with that I had to keep stopping to look them all up. Also, I was very moved three or four times and actually cried. And at the time that I had started reading it, I just was not in the mood to read something that was going to stir up a lot of emotion in me or cause me to stop a lot to look up information. So I set it aside and decided I would pick it up sometime in the future. And so I'll save it for the end of my pirate read, or of my pirate/nautical reads. I'm taking liberties. And hopefully I will come up with a fiction novel that I can pair with this one before the whole thing is said and done. I do actually have one more. The Voyage of the Beagle by Charles Darwin, again, nautical. It's all about Charles Darwin before he had proposed his famous evolution theory. When he was younger and he was on this boat called the Beagle, and he kept like a journal. And I'm very, very interested in reading that as well. But again, I'm going to save it more towards the end, and hopefully I'll find like a fiction novel that I could pair with that one. So that's it for my Great Pirate TBR, and I'll call that the end of the video.